Arnie San Agustin is a real estate broker based on the west side of the GTA, with a particular focus on new construction opportunities within Oakville and Burlington. In today's episode, we're going to discuss some of those opportunities, especially for buyers looking to purchase a new construction property, and simply getting into the market, as well as a bit about his journey, how he became an award-winning real estate agent, starting from some pretty humble beginnings. Welcome to the Golden Horseshoe Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Koukun Unosawa. I'm a mortgage broker with Synergy Mortgage Group. And in this podcast, we chat with real estate professionals who share their local market insights, future outlooks, proven strategies, and practical tips, all right here in Ontario's Golden Horseshoe. Hope you enjoy. So we have Arnie San Agustin here on our podcast. Arnie's someone I've known for quite a while now. He's a realtor in the GTA, and he's especially excited to share about the Oakville Burlington area, where he has quite a bit of experience with. So Arnie, let's kick this off. If a first-time homebuyer was listening to this podcast right now, and they were to come to you and ask, what's the most affordable type of home? What are you commonly seeing as the go-to for a first-time homebuyer right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you again for having me on the podcast. But in regards to first-time homebuyers, what I'm noticing right now is a lot of townhomes, so freeholds mostly. Up by Joshua Creek, there is a development that's for developers. It's Fremont, Mattamy, Valerie, and Hallett Homes, and that's where I'm seeing the most of the activity.
Awesome. And just for some context, if someone's sort of new to the area, just moving into the area, what kind of price point are these homes going for, and what do they get for that budget?
Mm-hmm. So I'd say more commonly, people are looking typically for 3 bedrooms or 4. The townhome entry price point would be around the low 900s. But I think what's more interesting is because there's this GST rebate that's being rolled out, there's actually quite a bit of interesting events with builder inventory that I think buyers can take advantage of.
Okay, interesting. And yeah, just for context, right? If someone's is the typical first-time home buyer moving into this area usually from I guess there's probably a decent amount of people just who already live there buying their first home. Are you seeing sort of an influx of people coming from the GTA or who work in the GTA but are looking to stay within kind of that commuting distance?
So I'd say the majority are already renting or living in Oakville. And then the ones that aren't, they're more open to exploring different areas. So for example, Burlington, Oakville, Milton, and they're coming from maybe Etobicoke, Toronto.
And what's the appeal? I guess, is it the lower price point in those areas than sort of Toronto core, or is there just a different lifestyle? What do they get for moving out?
I think in my opinion, I've watched the market change over the course of 3-4 years, especially there. These townhomes used to be upwards of 1.3, 1.4 million. So now to be able to get something and enter in the market that's at, let's say, low 900s is really appealing.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so I mean, you've been a realtor now for many years. What are some of the, does any story come to mind as a very surprising one when it comes to just a win that one of your clients have had?
Surprising? I think we're now approaching year 6 in my career. I'm very used to very competitive offer presentation market. As of late, because there's so much inventory to pick from, I'm noticing that buyers are less interested in trying to negotiate down, but the off time that they do, especially if you find the right seller. I'll give you an example. We were able to negotiate $260K off the asking price. And you could argue that, it's not priced at market value, but I feel the fact that people aren't even trying is a sign that there is an opportunity.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. How are your buyers feeling right now? So do they feel like they're getting a good deal, or is there still a bit of fear there where they may be worried that the market may go down lower?
I don't think it's necessarily fear that the market may go down more. It's more, and this is what I think is more interesting, is the first time home buyers that I have, like we know that we can get better deals on certain homes. But if they don't like it or they don't love it, they're not gonna be okay with that, call it $50,000 in savings.
Interesting, interesting. So in some ways, they know they hold the cards and they want to be a little bit more picky. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's it's kind of skewing the data in a way because it's like, yes, it's 100% a buyer's market, but the moment you start to like put certain properties on a pedestal, then it kind of removes your leverage in the sense that like all the ones that are negotiable, you weren't even looking at. But meanwhile, ones that you do like are starting to hold their value more. So in short, good properties will sell.
And how does that compare to a few years ago? Because when things were crazy, I know every property was getting multiple offers.
Mhm.
What was the dynamic back then for this same type of client?
Even now, if you have a good product, you still have to do everything in order to sell it. So staging, good photos, having good information there so that buyers can discern the difference between like certain little pockets in neighborhoods. Whereas in the past, it was more just like you're just going to enter the market. And if you can enter the market, then that's a privilege in itself.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely changed there, right? I
Mhm.
guess moving on a little bit, have you had in the last 6 years any crazy horror stories? You don't have to name names, of course, but like anything, whether it's your client or maybe one that you've heard of from the agents that you work closely with. What's the craziest thing you've heard when it comes to like a real estate story?
In regards to, can we be more specific? Like, do you want to keep it at like financing or just like disaster?
Could be financing, could be like something they discovered or a closing that failed or anything like that.
Closing that failed.
Well, I'll give you a story. So I
Sure.
in the last year and a half had a property I was selling. We sold it firm, right? Uh, a bit of a longer closing, 2.5 months until the closing date. It was a rental property that I own. And then 2 weeks before closing, they call asking, hey, can we add the sister to the title? So the buyer wanted to add her sister as a co-signer. I said, no problem. We're adding a person. That doesn't add any risk to me per se. And then closing day comes and they're like, yeah, we can't close. The person they were working with was a fraud. His name was literally on the regulator's website as, hey, don't deal with this person. He's not licensed. He's known to defraud people. He was posing as a mortgage broker. And apparently, this is what they're telling me, they gave their 5% down payment to him and he disappeared. And just crazy situation.
That's
I've
insane.
never
That's actually
even,
insane.
yeah, and it doesn't happen often, like prior to that, I can't even remember. I think I've only ever been in one other situation where a closing failed, and it's very uncommon in Ontario. Usually when we're firm on a deal, it typically goes through, right?
Hmm. On that topic, to add to that, though, I think where maybe more people can relate, a lot of condo investors as of lately, especially ones that had purchased towards the peak, are either not closing or can't close. But developers are starting to come after them in regards to like the delta, or I guess like the damages if they're unable to. So that's been kind of crazy as of lately.
If you have a client who comes to you with this kind of situation, where they've got into a contract on a property, they've decided to walk away for some reason, and now the developer is coming after them, like what do you usually tell them?
I think yeah. So like once you get over the emotional aspect of it, like of course getting sued, I'm sure for any individual is going to be a bit terrifying. So it
Mhm.
becomes a math equation at the end of the day. So it's like, is the amount that you're getting sued for worth the trouble of not closing, or is it worth going maybe an alternative route, such as private lending? I think a misconception is builders aren't actually intending or wanting to be like this predatory kind of like, you got to pay me, otherwise like all hell's going to break loose. Ultimately, they just want to get rid of their own construction financing. So whether it's like you don't close or you assign it, or maybe there's like an agreement in the middle where if you forfeit your deposit, give them a bit more, then everyone kind of just like walks away as like a settlement. I'm sure there's options there, but it's very case by case, and I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies, or I guess like the ambiguity with how you deal with each situation.
Makes sense, makes sense. Have you seen any situations where developers were willing to renegotiate the contract?
I want to be cautious when I say this, but yes, definitely. And I'm cautious because it's like it may not be the amount that you think it's going to be, number one, and then also you yeah, in short, I've seen it. I've seen it in cases, and I'm not going to name certain developers, but I think in this market, if everyone is from a very level-headed perspective has an understanding that like we're just trying to come up with a solution, then there's that on the table for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So yeah, Arnie, for those watching who are getting to know you for the first time, yeah, why don't you share a little bit about, what made you become a realtor? What was your life like before, and sort of how has it been so far for this past 6 years?
For sure. So just to keep it short and sweet, I've been a realtor or a broker for the past 6 years now, primarily focusing on investors. So it started a lot with pre-construction when those numbers made sense. During COVID, we pivoted and moved to, let's say, like duplex type homes, triplexes, where you have multiple streams of income from different units. And that would actually give you a cash flow positive. Now it's mostly first time home buyers. And to kind of get back to why I've gone this route is initially, before all of this, I had a landscaping company. I was at U of T studying psychology, and I love the science. I love the program itself, but I just found that in order to excel in the way that I wanted to, I had to go more the medical field. I was not smart enough for medical school, unfortunately. But what I did kind of learn through that is my appreciation with just like getting to know people, relationships, and just helping people from just a very genuine sense. So when I purchased my first pre-construction, that whole experience was amazing. It was great. The second one, it was okay. And then I kind of realized, wait a second, if this is how much people are able to make off just one sale, and it wasn't always the money, but it was always the impact that I saw that investing had on like my family as like immigrants to Canada is pretty phenomenal, just because there isn't too much, I guess, to go off of or for them to learn from. And so just to be like that resource and watch it kind of work the way that I had planned or just how it's supposed to work was really, I'd say, like one of the bigger drivers for me.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that's a pretty cool story, man. Yeah, I know when we spoke earlier, you had built a fairly successful landscaping business, and that is not an easy business to run. You're outside all day. It's hard physical
Mhm.
work, and yeah, it's for those who do it, it's definitely not the easiest type of business, but it really teaches you a lot, right? Like taking that work ethic and clearly you brought it into the real estate business and yeah, it's helped you come very far in this career, right?
hmm I just look at it as like kind of like a stepping stone or a learning lesson. Like I learned a lot just about um, clients, how to run a business, things like that. What I like, what I don't like. Being in the sun for like 12, 14 hours a day was just something that wasn't sustainable. So,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm.
100%, 100%. So yeah, I mean, what's next for you in terms of real estate, in terms of your business? Anything exciting coming up for you here in the next little bit?
From a business perspective, we're working with a couple developers. We're just trying to make sure that the pre-construction projects that we're advertising make sense, especially in today's market, and make sure that they're actually getting like good products. Um, I've had like the opportunity and fortunate enough to now like have enough referrals like from friends, family, even just like online people reaching out to start growing a team. So that's kind of the new avenue that I've decided to go. Um, and then yeah, just like staying consistent with like just being there to help our clients, just from more an educational standpoint than anything, and then continuing to grow from here.
Awesome, awesome. Um, final sort of thoughts here. If someone were listening to this who was like a first time home buyer or someone just, you know, imagine yourself prior to gaining all the experience you have now when you were purchasing that first property. Um, is there any advice you would give to someone very new to real estate before they bought their first home, first rental property? Any advice that you wish you had heard when you were getting started?
I think it's all overwhelming at once. In this current market right now, I think the biggest advantage that you have, and it would be a disservice if you didn't, would be to go and see as many like different types of developers or different types of style of home as you can, and to find an agent or a team that isn't necessarily so pushy, but more just like, okay, like this is what you get. We're able to do this because we're in the slower market that we're in. Because I think to be able to educate yourself from that perspective, you'll really start to understand whether it's the first, the second, and maybe many more down the line, what you're actually getting yourself into. So just like be patient with yourself, be patient with, or like find a patient realtor that's willing to explain the differences and not just kind of like push you towards, oh, like you should just live here because you should live here. Like what I've noticed, and sorry to keep this going, is if you show more extremes, I think that clients will have an appreciation for that just because it's like, oh, okay, so this is what I could get if I go this route, and this is what I could get if I spend a little bit less.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? You want to be an educated buyer. You want to know your options. I'm sure there is a limit to that. If a client comes to you wanting to see 100 homes, there are some limits to that. But especially when you're starting out, uh, yeah, just to see enough that they can feel confident in the decision that they do make, right?
Hmm. It sounds like the interesting thing, and I want to add to that point, is it's like hypothetically, yes, you could see 100 homes, but I find that after even the first visit, maybe even the second visit, it really narrows down quickly of what priorities are and things like that. So it's either it can happen or it can't happen. I find that people already have an idea of what they want from the get-go. So it's just even giving them the options to be like, hey, like you could also do this. Most times they'll just gravitate towards what they're comfortable with.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I think if someone sees 100 homes, they're clearly not like their criteria isn't defined or they're not sure
Hmm.
about what they want, right? As long as they have some idea of what they want and definitely working with someone like yourself who's experienced, you can almost like help guide them down that right path based on what they say, based on their needs and their criteria.
Yeah.
It's
It's a
just
lot
a
of
narrow
good
question.
questions that come with
Mhm.
that, but yes.
Yeah, awesome. Makes sense. Well, for everyone listening up to this point, really appreciate you guys tuning in here. And Arnie, if someone wanted to work with you or reach out to you to ask you for a question, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
We're on Instagram, so San Agustin Realty is our page. If you send me a DM, I will be sure to answer it and go from there.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, we'll put the links to your all your accounts in the description of the podcast as well as in the shorts, so that way it'll be easily available for anyone watching. Awesome. All right, we'll wrap it here then.
Awesome. Thank you, Koken.